unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. I come to you stuck because anyone who's ever owned a cat knows if it sits on your lap, you can't move. Tomato, my kitty, is currently on my lap. Here's what you're going to hear on tonight's show. I don't know why my voice doesn't wake him. Okay, here's what you're going to hear on tonight's show. Evidence from the James Webb Telescope, that amazing new thing that's up in the orbit, blowing your mind with images, suggests that we might be trapped inside a black hole right now. What? That's right, could our universe be trapped inside a black hole? What does this mean for the future of the planet, the stars, the cosmos? What is this evidence, and how can, if it's sucking us in, then we're currently being sucked in, but then there's black holes that exist that suck things in? Is that a double suck? What? Don't worry, we'll have an astrophysicist on in 10 minutes to calm your fears about that one. Then news from the technology sector. We'll talk about how large language models, things like ChatGPT and Claude AI, how they hallucinate, and also how we're starting to understand why. And of course, with the US's ban of TikTok looming, what happens next there? We'll cover those tech stories and more halfway through the hour. All right, we got a lot to cover. Let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
If you ever wake up after one too many drinks, look over at the person laying in bed with you and think, you were a lot better looking last night. Well, good news, science has confirmed it. You're not alone. And when I say not alone, I mean this tragic phenomenon isn't just for humans anymore. It turns out male fruit flies actually get hotter when they drink too. And I don't mean they feel hotter. I mean scientifically, chemically. To the lady fruit flies, males are basically winged Casanovas after having a cocktail. Yes, a new study has shown that alcohol makes male fruit flies more attractive to females. Full stop. The implication here is that evolution figured out the whole beer goggles thing before us humans did. And in flies, the goggles are mutual. When a guy drinks, ladies swoon, regardless of what the ladies had to drink. I'm guessing this is how we end up with those sexy fly parties with lots of flies getting nasty on top of your banana peel. The scientists behind this work are from the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Neuroethology. I'm not sure I pronounced any of those words properly, but you're in good hands when the name of your department sounds like it was designed by Kafka after a head injury. But they're serious people, and they wanted to know, do flies drink because they're sad, little, lonely, pathetic men at the bar alone, bothering the bartender with no one who likes them? Or is there a deeper, more primal reason? Well, one of the lead researchers says no, the flies aren't drinking because they got dumped and started listening to The Cure. Instead, alcohol triggers fruit flies to produce more pheromones. Those chemical sex signals that basically say, hey ladies, I'm fermenting and I'm fertile. It's methanol in particular, a type of alcohol found in rotting fruit. And that gives the male flies their sexy musk. Which means the next time you walk past a compost bin and smell something awful, just remember, that's the smell of someone's candlelit dinner. Now this might sound like the plot of an art house film that no one finishes, but the science gets kind of wild. The male flies are literally wired to want alcohol more if they've never done it before. That's right, fresh young men looking for their first partner have their tiny brains go, well, I'm a virgin, I might as well pregame. And yes, that's real. Virgin flies are drawn more to booze than their more experienced brothers. It's the same energy as college or university freshmen with no romantic history suddenly developing strong opinions about jazz and the world and existentialism. And, telling everyone at a party after a drink or two. That was an oddly specific example. But before you go on and give your fruit flies in your home tequila shots and play Barry White to get them all ready, there is a catch. The fly brain has 3 neural circuits to deal with alcohol. 2 of them say yes, please. But there's a third one that slaps the bottle away and says, don't be stupid, Jerry. You're going to puke all over the chrysanthemum again. You see, Flies know that alcohol is toxic to them. They're not dumb. Their teeny tiny brains literally weigh the pros and cons of getting lit and getting too lit, which already makes them more emotionally mature than, well, most of us. Which is to say, fruit flies play a careful evolutionary game. Enough booze to get the girl, but not so much that you get faced and fall face first into a compost heap. It's a delicate dance, a boozy ballet. One your friend Jimmy, who got way too drunk at that wedding, could do well to learn from. Now, researchers used fancy imaging tech to peer into little fruit fly brains during all this, which frankly feels like a bit of a violation. Imagine you're drunk, flirting with ladies, trying to make your pheromones pop, and some nerd in a lab coat is like, "Smile, I'm mapping your dopamine levels." Or whatever they map to get this done. But the result, a new understanding of how even the tiniest creatures balance risk, desire, the sweet scent of rotting bananas, and, well, how much gin to drink. Or as I like to call it, Friday night. So the next time you're feeling tipsy and a little more attractive than you probably are, just know you're not alone. Somewhere out there, a fruit fly with a methanol buzz is pretending to be Brad Pitt. And the lady flies, well, they're easily convinced. All right, from Mission Control, strap in or strap on, depending on your level of commitment to this broadcast, because today we are boldly going where NASA refuses to take us. Space sex. That's right, doing the deed up there. Not SpaceX. Until now, NASA's been real shy about that. They'll give you an entire PowerPoint presentation on what happens to toenails in zero gravity. Spoiler, they fall off. Gross. But ask if anyone's ever done the deed in orbit, and suddenly the space agency is all like, "Who, us? We're just here for science." Yeah, sure, and my dad reads those magazines in the bathroom for the articles. Now, lucky for us, a former NASA insider just dropped a not-so-subtle tell-all on the topic, and between the lines of bureaucratic jargon and cafeteria gossip, here is what I learned from reading about that. NASA hears everything that happens on the space station. They've got audio on bodily functions, psychological meltdowns, and yes, if there was any cosmic canoodling, they definitely heard that too. Some poor guy in Houston probably has a spreadsheet with a space log line that reads, Tuesday morning, 0400 hours. Moaning. Maybe friendly, maybe constipation. Now, the curiosity about all of this started back in 1992 when the first married couple flew into space. Everybody immediately wanted to know if they celebrated their honeymoon in orbit. And ever since, this question has been floating out there like a lonely satellite. Has anyone ever had sex in space? NASA, of course, keeps pretending the answer is definitely not. But let's be real here. These astronauts are up there for months. Some of them for nearly a year. In a floating tin can the size of a walk-in closet. Now 60% of people in the workplace have had romances there. And we're supposed to believe just because people are up in space that they're 100% focused on the science, please. I've seen workplace parties. If accounting interns can't keep it professional at the holiday party, I doubt a space mission is a bastion of chastity. And yes, logistically, sex in space is probably complicated. You can't do missionary without Newtonian consequences. Push off the wrong way, and suddenly you're both drifting across the cabin like confused jellyfish. Now, NASA, Puritans that they are, once even suggested sending an all-female crew to Mars to avoid hookups. Bold move! Unfortunately, it also suggests the people making decisions at NASA have never seen a season of Orange is the New Black. Just saying, intimacy is not exclusive to mixed company. Now, as far as actual evidence of space sex, there isn't much. But here's the thing. A former NASA staffer, without technically spilling any secrets, basically winked so hard it echoed through the stratosphere. Sex in space? They say it's happened. Probably more than once. It's just that NASA won't admit it. Because if there's one thing scarier than space debris, it's public relations, answering questions, admitting that astronauts have needs. So the next time you gaze up at the stars and think, are we alone out there? Just remember, maybe not. Maybe someone somewhere is making very tender, very careful, very deeply awkward love way, way above your head. And well, NASA's not talking. All right, up next, new evidence that suggests we are living in a black hole. I'm amazed by that. What does it mean? I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. Black holes in a minute.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where we apply quantum mechanical psychoanalytical astrotherapy to your problems.
Black holes, and I'm not talking about the emotional black hole like my ex-wife used to describe me as. I'm talking about one of the most mysterious, intriguing, awe-inspiring celestial objects. Today, we'll dive into a wild theory that suggests our entire universe might actually be trapped inside a black hole. So buckle up. It's about to get cosmic with astrophysicist Dr. Jesse Rogerson from York University. He's the co-author of Daydreaming in the Solar System. That's available wherever books are sold. Jesse, welcome to the show as we slowly get sucked in to the abyss.
Perfect. Yes. Well, thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk about this. This is a weird story.
Another thing my ex-wife would say, any discussion with me is getting sucked into the abyss. All right, let's leave my ex-wife out of this. I don't know what's wrong with me. I apologize, ex-wife, if you're listening, and I hope you're not. Okay. This is a really cool thing. Like, we've long known our universe is expanding, right? Like,
yes.
we're getting further and further away from stuff that's already far away from us, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're accelerating our expansion. That was one of the biggest discoveries of the last 30, 40 years is not only is the universe expanding, but that expansion is accelerating. And that's what we don't know why that's happening. And we call that dark energy. That's like the catch-all name for it. And there's a lot of really great scientists making progress on what exactly this means, but we really don't know what that is.
Was it Edwin Hubble who discovered that?
Hubble discovered that the universe is not static, that it is expanding. So he didn't discover that it is accelerating its expansion. He discovered that when you look at galaxies, they're moving away from us, and moreover that the further away you look, the faster they're moving away from us. So that's called the Hubble theory, the expansion of the universe. And he had these great measurements of 50 or 60 galaxies, and he showed how this clear trend, everything's moving away from us, which is counterintuitive. The whole point of the story that we're talking about is maybe our universe is inside a black hole, and everybody knows that a black hole pulls everything in, right? So how could you be living inside of a black hole that's supposed to pull everything in when all of our observations say that everything's moving away from us?
What's really cool is we've recently discovered, and it's not a high degree of confidence, that the universe is not only expanding and not only accelerating in its rate of expansion, but it also might be rotating, which is to say things that are very far away from us, you can imagine them swirling around like flushing a toilet. I don't know if is it clockwise? Are we living in Australia? Or is it counterclockwise? Are we living in North America? What hemisphere of the universe are we in? Is that even true? But I'm just trying to give people a visual. Imagine yourself near the center of where the poop goes, and then the rest of the stuff in the universe is further out, and it's kind of just rotating.
Yes, your life is the poop. That is what you're saying.
Isn't the black hole the toilet that you get flushed into in a celestial sense? Maybe. So that's a recent discovery. And somehow that is explained by perhaps us already getting sucked into a black hole.
That's right. So the idea here is, and that observation of when you look out into the distant universe and you look at all the galaxies that are there, they all have spins. Every galaxy has a spin. And we've noticed over the last 20 or 30 years that they don't have a random distribution of spins. You would expect if everything was random that half of them would be spinning one direction and the other half would be spinning another direction, clockwise versus counterclockwise. But it seems to be an overabundance of ones spinning clockwise.
So the universe has a handedness, if you will. It's sort of right-handed.
Yeah, we have a weird, and the question is, okay, why? And one of the explanations that comes from this is that means that could be that the whole universe itself has a spin, and each of the galaxies that we observe has inherited that preferential spin from the universe. And that's exactly like our solar system. Like our whole solar system, the sun, the planets, the moons around the planets, all kind of spin in the same direction because we inherited it from the cloud of gas that we birthed from, the solar system. So you're thinking like the galaxy, the universe as a whole has a spin to it, and all the little galaxies inside of it are themselves inheriting that spin. And that we know that black holes spin, like black holes that we see in our universe that are smaller than the black hole that we are inside, we know that they spin. And so if black holes can spin, then this might be a plausible explanation for why we have a spinning universe.
Well, everything in modern society seems to be going down the toilet. Why should we think the cosmos is any different? Slowly flushing down that black hole. What can the James Webb Telescope tell us? Like, how do you even test a theory like that? How do you test whether we're getting trapped in a black hole? And how does that relate to us getting further and further away from things and then things having a certain spin? I think you described the spin thing because I guess if the black hole's spinning, the stuff caught in it is spinning. But how do you explain the expansion thing?
That is a really interesting question. And back in the 70s, when this idea of like a black hole cosmology came to be, some people pitched the idea that we live inside a black hole. You have to then explain why we're expanding and not contracting. And there are some, and to be honest with you, I haven't done the math myself on this.
I'll get my pen. I'll do it right now. It's easy, right?
When you crush things down in a black hole, because that's what happens. It's a runaway collapse.
Carry the one.
Things are crushing down.
Divide by 2.
You get to a point where you just can't squish things together anymore.
Add 7.
And they're
all right, I'll stop doing the math. Okay, now keep going.
Then there's a point at which things start to couple together. Weird, like quantum things start happening. Tension and torsion with matter. There's all these like fancy terms, and basically there's a couple of theoreticians that say if you allow runaway collapse to happen, then you can reach a point where it won't allow the collapse to happen anymore. The matter will couple and then rebound off itself and start recoiling and expanding.
Okay, let's dumb that down. Are you saying if a black hole's big enough, it might actually explode?
That once it's collapsed, and yes. I don't know if big enough is the right way of describing it, but I think the idea is that as it collapses down, it reaches a point where it can recoil on itself. And that would explain a lot of the observations we make about our universe.
So the Big Bang
it came from the recoil of a black hole collapsing.
A really big black hole.
Yeah.
A black hole the size of our universe.
Well,
or a black hole that sucked in our observable universe.
And then I guess the idea would be it could have been incredibly small, and in fact, it probably was incredibly small as it collapsed down to almost an infinitesimally sized thing. But then it recoiled into something the size of our universe.
It's fun to talk about, and the rotating observations by the James Webb, add a slight amount of evidence to this theory. I wouldn't say there's any high degree of confidence here. But I guess I just answered my question. I'm just looking for you to answer it the same. Astronomers, are they taking these theories? Well, I suppose they're taking them seriously in terms of evaluating them, but does anyone actually believe this, or would the conclusion be there's not enough evidence yet?
I think, so that's a really good question. I think that there's good evidence to suggest that one of the possibilities is that we live inside of a spinning universe. I think that is a pretty solid statement to say, because you can look at the galaxies that are out there. They all have a preferential spin. And you can say, okay, a good explanation for that is a spinning universe. And a good explanation, this is where you do 2 steps. A spinning universe could mean we live in a black hole. Now, the funny thing, when I was reading this paper that they published, the funny thing I found about this story was that they're like, okay, that's what it could mean. But it could also mean that when we do our observations, we have to look through our own Milky Way to see the galaxies. Like we look out of our Milky Way. And because the Milky Way itself is spinning, that's adding onto the galaxies that we look at a preferential spin. So it's just an observational bias.
Interesting. That's so interesting that observational bias is something we talk about like in psychology. Like I'm viewing you through the lens of me and there I'm biased, but we have observational biases in astronomy too. Like, we're looking at the cosmos from this planet, in this galaxy, near this star, through our atmosphere, whatever. And that can introduce bias, and maybe it's not spinning at all.
And here's the weird thing about it is the prediction of a spin axis that comes from this lines up exactly where our spin axis of our Milky Way is. So it's hard to tell the difference between the two.
Great. So we're either in a black hole or we're not in a black hole from the early universe, which I think is an exciting development.
We made it here. What a great conclusion.
We covered all the bases. For example, I'm either 6 feet tall or I'm not 6 feet tall. What I just said is true. What I just said is 100% true. Dr. Jesse Rogerson is the co-author of Daydreaming in the Solar System, a book available wherever you find books. He's an astrophysicist at York University. Jesse, it's always such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
After the break, how and why do AI models like ChatGPT hallucinate? Well, this one's been cracked, and we're going to share it with you in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Oh yes, of course, that famous 18th century violinist, Percival von Strudelwiener, who was known for playing with a bow made from armadillo hair. Except he wasn't. He doesn't exist. And you don't make bows out of armadillo hair, but sometimes when you ask AI questions, it can hallucinate, just like that. I'm here with Carmi Levy, tech expert for It's Time for Technology Time. Carmi, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, David. Thanks for having me back.
I have asked ChatGPT questions. I used to be a computer programmer before I moved into media, as my mother famously described me hating money. That's how she describes my career transition.
Thanks, Mom.
But sometimes when you ask ChatGPT programming questions, it just like makes stuff up. And so you think, wow, I got code I can use. And then you put the code into whatever, you run the code, and then it just doesn't work. And it made things up. It also makes facts up, it makes times, it makes places, it makes people up very occasionally. And what's hard about it is sometimes you don't know when it does, and you don't know under what circumstances it does. And until now, I'm not sure that was well understood by anybody outside of ChatGPT. I'm also not sure it was understood by people in ChatGPT. But there's new research that kind of explains when LLMs, large language models, makes stuff up. Do you want to walk me through this and we can kind of understand it together?
Yeah, this research comes to us from Anthropic, which they're responsible for the Claude LLM. And so they are, obviously a major AI player. And they wanted to understand really what makes a large language model tick, because every time we've tried to understand why they hallucinate, why they confabulate information, why they make stuff up instead of simply saying, I don't know. The answer up until now has always been, well, it's a black box and we really don't know what's going on inside that black box. So
someone explained it to me the other day. It's like, okay, you can picture a three-dimensional object in your head, like a sphere or like a car, like a planet, but you can't picture a four-dimensional object or a five-dimensional object. We only sort of see in three dimensions. Well, the way that these large language models work is they have millions, maybe tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dimensions. So you can't really picture what's going on. And every concept, like let's say a baseball game or a hat, it sort of moves this kind of arrow a little bit in many, many dimensions. And that's how it comes up with its answers. So I know I've kind of glossed over how they work, but they have many, many, many dimensions. And we just can't picture it and we can't wrap our heads around it because our brains are too small. And that's why they don't know what's going on. They can design the architecture, but how it actually works when it runs is like too complicated for the human mind to understand.
yeah, exactly. It's almost like, kind of understanding. It's the same way when we try to study brains and we'll put someone in an MRI machine, for example, and then have them do certain tasks and then track what that imagery looks like. That's really what Anthropic is trying to do here. It's almost like putting a large language model under an MRI, under a CT scanner, and sort of to try to understand what it looks like, what that visual looks like when you ask it to do certain tasks and sort of try to create a signature. What happens when it goes off the rails? Can we understand the mechanics of it? And so they recognize that there are sort of two main states. One is when it understands, when it's a known entity or feature. So everybody knows Michael Jordan. So if you ask a question about Michael Jordan, there's a lot of information out there on it. But if it's another NBA player who might have been in the league for 2 weeks before crashing it with a career-ending injury, there won't be as much there. And so it's more likely that the large language model would simply say, well, I know Michael Jordan, but I don't know this other guy. And so there's a switch when it sort of decides either to throw up the I don't know answer, or it tries to make stuff up. And so they sort of use both the Michael Jordans and the not Michael Jordans. And then they try to sort of track and scan what it looked like. And they realized that the LLM thinks differently when it knows what it's talking about versus when it doesn't know what it's talking about. And they figured out a way to fine tune that switch, that decision point where it decides, I'm either going to give up or I'm going to try to lie about it. I'm going to confabulate. And it's groundbreaking because up until now, we've had no insight into what makes a large language model tick. At what point? What's that moment? Almost like when you're reconstructing an accident. What's the moment where things really started to go wrong? Now, thanks to this research, Anthropic believes that it has some insight into where that moment is. And as a result, it's sort of giving them a little bit more visibility into further research. They don't have the full answer. Obviously, this will take years, possibly decades, but at least they feel that they're on the right track finally.
I wonder if they could productize this and warn customers, hey, like we didn't actually know, our large language model couldn't actually match what you're asking. We instead took like the concept of basketball player and celebrity and success, and we took all these other dimensions that we know are associated with what you're asking, but we don't actually know what you're asking. So we just want to warn you, we may have hallucinated in our answer. That would be a great feature of ChatGPT if it could give you a confidence level of how confident it is that it hallucinated or not. Then it could give you the same answer, but it would be more useful to you because you could get like highlighted in red what it's not confident about. I wonder if this research could lead to something like that, because that would be super useful.
I think it could. And I think it's important because we've often talked about labeling in artificial intelligence that, we need to know when something is AI generated. And the industry has been, initially was somewhat resistant to that, but now seems to be jumping on the bandwagon as copyright and intellectual property concerns start to grow. And there's no reason why this could not be something as well. In other words, label the responses that are somewhat problematic, label the responses that could be confabulations, that could be hallucinations. I think it all comes down to marketing. What organization wants to admit that its product is substandard, or what organization wants to spend programming effort on a system that says, I'm not as smart as I probably should be. But at the same time, I think this is something that the industry probably isn't going to come up with on its own. They'll have to be forced to. We'll probably need some kind of legislative framework, some laws in place that force them to behave in that manner, because it runs counter to the marketing need. In other words, my product is better than everyone else's. Kind of hard to do when you're popping up messages saying this could be a confabulation, this could be a lie. So I agree we need it. On the other hand, I suspect the industry is probably going to be dragged kicking and screaming in that direction.
I want to take you back in time to like 2012, 2013, to the early days of Facebook, when there was a timeline that just showed you what your friends had posted, photos, posts to the wall, little bits of text in chronological order. And then somewhere along the line, Facebook decided that they would just show you content that you wanted, what they thought you wanted. It might not be from your friends. It might be news. It might be from strangers. It might be from corporate pages, whatever, in non-chronological order. And they kind of took away that early feel of like, okay, these are what my friends are doing. These are what the people I'm linked with on this platform are doing in chronological order. And that change basically paved the way for TikTok, paved the way for Instagram. Really revolution. Twitter now doesn't show you what people you're following necessarily have posted in chronological order. All of these major social media apps now don't give you what the people are doing in chronological order. I miss that feature. And Zuckerberg, Cyborg. He is claiming that he's going to bring back this feature, which is kind of neat, but I don't know if they'll actually do it or how much it'll be used or how good it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, certainly social media has become a lot less social as we transitioned away from chronological feeds toward algorithmic ones. What's social when 95% of the content is stuff that you didn't ask to follow? And we've heard this before. A couple years ago, Mark Zuckerberg said exactly the same thing. They're going to make it more social. They're going to introduce a dedicated friends feed, and that really didn't happen. That's been buried. Now he's saying he's going to revamp the friends section, and you will have the option to go chronological and get away from that algorithmic mess that your feed has become. I love the promise. It'll get us back to what social media was in the beginning, which was social. You follow people, they follow you. You create an online community. But I also recognize this isn't good for their business. Their business is algorithmically driven content that drives revenue, that drives advertising impressions and engagement. And that is the business. Hard to imagine how they make money off of chronological. I suspect he'll introduce this to much fanfare. We'll use it for a little while. We'll all be happy, and then it'll slowly get buried like it has been in the past. I wouldn't trust Zuckerberg. I didn't trust him then. certainly don't trust him now. And I don't think social media is ever going to get back to its social media roots.
I wouldn't trust him any further than I can throw him. And he's kind of jacked. Doesn't he do fighting MMA stuff? So I couldn't throw him very far. Carmi Levy's here. It's time for technology time. When we come back, TikTok's ban deadline is coming. What's going to happen next with that? I am David Cooper, and this is The Last Show.
The Last Show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
It is time for technology time. At the end of last year, there was much to discuss about TikTok's looming ban in the US. Now, the Trump administration kicked the can down the road, gave them an extension, but that extension deadline is coming near. What is going to happen? Nothing really has been done. TikTok is still owned predominantly by ByteDance, a Chinese company. They haven't sold. They've been currying favor with the courting and currying favor. Great speaking, David. You did great there. Courting and currying favor with the Trump administration to avoid this. But still, the deadline is around the corner. Carmi Levy is here to discuss. Carmi, what is next for this one?
So mark Saturday, April 5th on your calendar. That's the next major milestone. That is the end of the 75-day extension that the company was granted as soon as Donald Trump became president. It's an extension to being compliant with the law that the Biden administration introduced that basically says either sell yourself to an American-owned company or you will go dark. You will not be allowed to operate in the U.S. And so, there was a lot of speculation leading up to the inauguration. The company pulled the app down for a few hours and then brought it back up. And ever since then, the extension was designed to buy the company enough time to make a deal. Donald Trump has said he'd like to make a deal. He wants to save the company. We've seen a growing list of organizations and individuals step forward. Nothing official. Everything is rumored. No one really knows who's bidding what. Mr. Beast from YouTube, the co-founder of Reddit, Perplexity. The latest one is Amazon, apparently, has made a bid, but no one knows how big. No one knows what the terms are. No one knows what technologies are included or are not included. And it feels a lot like the sort of the usual Trump administration smoke and mirrors kind of thing where there's a lot of speculation and a lot of discussion, but really not a whole lot of detail. And as the clock ticks down to Saturday, no one even knows, even if a deal is struck, will that be enough to ensure compliance with the law? And will the government in the U.S. even enforce that law? Or will they simply say, let's push it off a little bit more so that we can allow the ink on any deal to dry? So if you're a TikTok user, you're kind of holding your breath because no one really knows what's happening. But that's kind of how things operate in Trump's America. And just like we saw when he first took power and granted them that extension, it's entirely possible that history is going to repeat itself as we tick down to Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. They'll just kick the can down the road. It'll be a non-story. I think no one's really excited about this story because they know that the current administration is pretty lax on this one. And they'll just let them have time if they want it. They'll support an American acquisition or an American company grabbing a huge stake in it. No one seems to care.
Yeah, I think the only people who really care are, ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, as well as the Communist Party of China, the Chinese government, because, of course, they have a stake in any technology company in China. That's the way business works in China. So at the end of the day, Donald Trump can say whatever he wants. We can speculate all we want. They can announce whatever they want, but it's the Chinese government that has ultimate power over whether they will sell or not and under what terms and what technology is or is not included. We know that they will not allow the algorithm to be included in such a deal. So even if a deal is struck, it may not be the TikTok that anyone knows and loves today because the algorithm isn't going along for the ride. And it's a huge open question as to whether that can be reverse engineered or recreated by any new owner. So it can go in any number of directions here, but at the end of the day, I'm not watching Washington, I'm watching Beijing to see what happens, and so far they haven't said anything. They're not tipping their hand. Probably won't until at least Saturday.
I mean, with the U.S. isolating itself from its trading partners by imposing tariffs, and this was quietly announced 3 days ago, and no one seems to have picked it up much. South Korea China, and Japan all had a meeting. These are trading partners that were kind of like at odds with each other. Japan and South Korea kind of have Western influence, and they're sort of involved in the more Western trading circles, and China is not. The three of them made an announcement saying they're going to cooperate better on trade. China is doing everything right, and they control the social media algorithm for America's young people. I don't know, man. China's making all the right moves, and I'm not convinced the U.S. is. Who knows what we're going to see here with TikTok?
This isn't just a trade war. It's not just about tariffs. I think we are seeing a reordering of the global order. And I think, the saner heads in Washington fail to recognize that China and Russia and others will not sit by idly while the U.S. flails with trade policy. And they will form their own alliances to ensure that and again, this is more political, but technology plays a central role in this because the very daily activities of Americans are being tracked by this algorithm, and that data has to go somewhere. And so that data is power, and that can certainly be used by any major trade partner. And I think China recognizes that, and I think Japan and South Korea are wise to kind of get on board and have those conversations. I find it funny. Washington these days seems to be playing a geopolitical game of checkers while everyone else is playing 3D chess. And we all know how this game is going to end.
All right, let's talk Tesla, a company whose sales have not been going well since its CEO has been in the headlines. Every time I see a Cybertruck, I get this overwhelming feeling like it's such a politicized object, whether you like Musk or not. And that company's stock is not doing well. Their sales are down. There's been some protests and bricks being thrown through dealerships' windows. Times are tough for Tesla, and it should not be a surprise that its growth is down. And this is a company that's seriously prized growth over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
How are things going for the old Model T or Model Y or Cybertruck or Model 3 or whatever the models are called?
Well, I'm glad you used the word old because the Model S has been on sale since the early last decade, and it really hasn't received a refresh in years. Same thing with the Model Y. I mean, they don't tend to refresh the models on the same schedule as the rest of the industry. That was a problem before Elon Musk became politicized. It's especially of a concern now. So they just released their production and sales numbers for the first quarter of this year, and they're down. Production is down 16.3% year over year. Deliveries are down almost 13% year over year. Europe, we saw previous numbers from Europe showing that their sales are down in some cases well over 50%, if not more. And these numbers are particularly acute with their older models, the Model S and the Model Y and the Model X. SUV. And of course, the Cybertruck has become almost a cultural flashpoint for hatred of Elon Musk as he, wields his Doge hammer in Washington, often to the detriment of Tesla. And so it's pretty clear this is a company whose brand is very closely tied to Elon Musk. And as Elon Musk is perceived in a more negative light globally, his products have become toxic to a growing number of people. And this ultimately threatens Tesla's continued growth. Their stock has essentially given up all of the value that it accrued after Donald Trump won the presidency in November, and it continues to weaken. And this is a company that either something significant changes over the next little while, or it will become an also-ran. There is kind of a level at which investors or the board can call for a leadership review, and looking at the stock performance lately, and certainly the sales and production numbers that we're seeing, we're getting dangerously close to that point. And it's something that we'll be watching for when they report their financials later this quarter. So we haven't seen those, but they are a publicly traded company. We know full well that their margins compared to a typical automaker are about half now of what an average automaker would be, about 6% for every vehicle that they sell. You run all the numbers and you realize this is not sustainable. At some point, this company is going to drive right into a brick wall.
Their stock isn't doing as bad as you would think. I mean, the stock's not doing well at all. But I wonder, why is that? Is someone propping it up? I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist, but yeah.
It's entirely possible that there are forces, and this is often the case. I mean, look at GameStop, right? With the stonking trend a couple of years back where the stock of a company that is essentially dying because nobody buys video games in storefronts anymore, suddenly becomes an absolute darling of the industry. Why? And that really is financial engineering. And there's some question as to whether Tesla is seeing the same thing. Who knows? But at the same time, bottom line, if you're considering buying a Tesla, it's something to think about. If you own a Tesla, you might want to buy one of those bumper stickers.
Carmi Levy is a technology expert. After the break, we'll discuss all things pop culture, including a trend of lonely young men who are spending thousands of dollars to text with their favorite adult performers. My goodness. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Is your boyfriend, husband, roommate, or pet sleeping with their phone under their pillow? Well, they might have an OnlyFans addiction. Young men are spending tens of thousands of dollars just to send text messages to their favorite adult models, porn stars, creators, whatever you want to call them. It's pop cultured like fungus. We are joined... Ooh, something in the throat.
It's an OnlyFans creator.
It is pop culture... I'm joined by OnlyFans creator. No, I am not. I'm joined by pop culture and reality TV historian, co-host of the Jan Arden podcast, media personality. Did I say I was joined by pop culture?
Did you? You are, kind of. I like to embody pop culture if I can, so why not?
This might be the best introduction I've ever done. Caitlin Green, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love this edition of us talking about OnlyFans because we've done it before, and it's always good.
Yeah, you said, is OnlyFans cheating? You kind of said no, but you wouldn't want to be with someone who was addicted to OnlyFans. I kind of agree. I see it. I don't think it's cheating per se. I think every couple's different. That was a conversation we had in the past. Let's talk about the men who are consumed by OnlyFans, whether they have girlfriends, wives, or not. The idea of sending your favorite, if there's this interactivity component where it's like, okay, if I watch an adult video and I go to an adult video theater, do they even have those anymore? R.I.P. Pee Wee Herman. Do they even have those? Like, traditionally, adult entertainment is just between yourself at home, and you're watching something taped in a studio by porn stars, and it's not interactive. With these OnlyFans things, it's like you're sending them text messages. You're in a relationship with them in a way.
Yeah, and you're paying a lot of money to gain that sort of firsthand access to these models. And it's I can't believe anyone is surprised by this, but it is making men very, very addicted to OnlyFans. They think that they have a real relationship with these women. They're writing them on Christmas and saying Merry Christmas. They're writing to them from the grocery store and saying, I had to sneak away to the bathroom at Costco. I'm here grocery shopping with my wife and kids, and writing to them and thinking it's funny.
Well, it's like a little affair, but it's like a contained affair. You're kind of paying for the service. You're unlikely to get caught unless the wife sees the phone. You're never going to have the model show up at your front door knocking saying, he said he would leave me for you. It's like it's sort of a safe, unsafe affair.
Exactly. And it's just walking this line enough that I think certain men believe that they can get away with it and that it's not cheating. And some people, obviously, who talk about this are making the case that it isn't cheating. But a lot of the women who are in relationships with these guys are now having interviews take place with them. They're talking to editors at The Cut and the New York Times, who are all saying, yeah, no, this is cheating on me. You're spending all of this money. Some of them are getting burner phones, like second phones, to interact with their OnlyFans people. Wow. And they're lying to their significant other about it. And they're exhibiting behaviors that you would expect from someone who is having a physical affair, where they're no longer interested in intimacy with their partner in real life anymore, like sex drive gone. And then they're hiding their phone. They're irritable. They protect it like they're precious. Like they can't. And so they're saying this feels like I'm being cheated on. So that's how they regard it. And I return to, it is also incredibly not hot. It is so unattractive.
Well, when you start interacting and sending those messages, you're retaining the services of a sex worker, whether you want to admit it or not. And that is cheating, I think, in most relationships, unless you and your wife have discussed that beforehand. And she's like, go to Vegas and have fun, honey. Wink, wink. I know what you're going to do and I'm okay with it. That's full on cheating.
Yes, it is. And also, again, it's icky. Like, I think the women aren't really saying that part in a lot of these interviews. They're saying that they feel cheated on, but they're not saying that I feel like I'm in a relationship with a loser. And I think that's also the piece that would be disconcerting AF to me. If I found this, I would then realize you yes are the woman who's in the relationship with the guy who thinks the stripper likes them. And there is no more embarrassing, shame-filled place to reside in a relationship. To me, it's a game over immediately, not just because of the hiding of the phone. It's just because I can't find this hot anymore.
I'm with you. The stripper can't like you. The stripper they can't like you and they can't dislike you. It's just like your waiter at the restaurant. You'll never know whether that banter that you had, they liked you or not. It's impossible. You're in a commercial, you're in a customer service worker relationship. You can't know. So when you say the stripper likes you, maybe they do, maybe they don't. You can't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little sidebar conversation here, and my ex-wife and my girlfriend never believe me when I say this. They think I'm just bragging. They think I couldn't do it. I think I could handle dating, being in a committed relationship with an adult entertainer, whether it's an OnlyFans model, a stripper. I think I could, a porn star. I think I could do it. I think I have the temperament for it.
Not just a model, but also someone who maybe engages in physical acts of intimacy.
If it was like a porn star, yes, probably. Yeah, I think I can handle it.
Okay. Why do you
if it's someone who's like,
why do you think that?
I just think I could. I think I can handle it. I don't know.
Do you think you could watch the videos?
I mean, I probably wouldn't. I mean, but yeah, sure. I think so. Now it's getting weird. Now I seem like a pervert.
Now I'm like, do you think you would enjoy it with a cigarette in the corner of the room?
All right. Let's not. If you want to talk about I didn't think this would go there. Fine. I don't know if I would enjoy it in my, my velvet bathrobe, smoking a cigar, sitting in a love seat in the corner of the room.
Well, don't rule it out.
I just think I could handle it. I don't really get jealous. But probably like OnlyFans model, just, taking videos of themselves with no other people. Probably I can handle that better. But I think I can manage it.
Do you think also there would be a piece of it that is attractive to you to have men sort of like lusting after your partner?
Maybe a little, but I wouldn't get off on it,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because Kanye West's ex-girlfriend, Amber Rose, was recently on a podcast. And she was, of course, asked about her relationship with him. And he now is very famous for parading his current maybe wife, maybe whatever, around nude almost constantly on every red carpet and wanting her to do that. And Amber Rose's take was that he wants to be with the hottest woman in the room and that he derives some sort of sexual gratification from having all these men want to have sex with his partner.
Yeah.
Not to say that he wants to watch it happen, but he likes that element of it.
I hate that we bring this up around Kanye West because I think this fetish is a perfectly fine fetish when done by, consenting normal adults.
Yeah.
There's like nothing inherently wrong with like, I get off on being jealous or I get off on everyone desiring my partner because they're so sexy. But now we have to bring it up in the context of Kanye West, who's this is not a guy I would invite to a dinner party,
No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone wants to have dinner with him.
Yeah. So would I get off on it? I mean, maybe a little. What am I going to do? But no, I just think I could handle it. I think I could just,
I love the notion of you being in the corner and they're like, are you getting off on this? And you're like, what am I going to do? That would be your response.
You make me sound so Jewish, but I know that's how I sound.
Oh, it's great. Well, yeah. So I don't know. I think that OnlyFans, to your point, unlike porn, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's there is a communication that's happening, and that communication is now mystifying some men and making them addicted to the relationship, making them probably a little bit strange in their real life, spend way too much money and conceal their activities. Also, if you're now no longer having sex with your partner because you aren't even really interested, you only want to engage with this person who lives in your phone. Like you probably have to go to therapy now. Like, sorry, I think everyone needs a therapist.
I mean, some of these sex workers who text with men, they're kind of functioning as the therapist.
Yeah, they are. They give them, I guess, a very easy girlfriend-ish experience, right? Because they're never going to challenge them on anything. They're always going to be happy to hear from them. They're always going to be complimentary, and they're never going to say no to a request because it's coming with money.
Exactly. I'm here with Caitlin Green, a pop culture and reality TV historian, a media personality, and co-host on the Jan Arden podcast. We're talking pop culture on Pop Cultured Like Fungus. When we come back, the latest dating trend, it's called loud dating. Is it just being straightforward, or is it being too straightforward? We'll be back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Love, science, and the most outrageous news. It's all here. The last show with David Cooper.
Loud dating. We're about to find out what it is, but is it just straightforward, or is it too straightforward? This is what people are doing on their online dating profiles. I'm here to discuss with Caitlin Green, a media personality and co-host of the Jan Arden podcast. It's a little time we call Pop Cultured Like Fungus. It's kind of a weird name for a time to speak on the radio, but I love it. Caitlin, welcome back. Loud dating. What is it? Can you give me a definition there? I can't keep track of the young people's Tinder dating trends. I just can't.
The young people dating terms, they feels like there's a new one every few months. So I'm happy to deliver this one along with an explanation, because I think back in the day, I feel like an old woman now, like when I was a girl, but truly when I was a girl and I was single, you didn't start out your dating experience with someone by stating exactly what you wanted, what you were looking for. You just got to know each other and decided if you wanted to continue to get to know each other. Now, I think with the onset of online dating apps taking up so much time, people being ghosted, going on dates with someone only to find out that they're really not the right fit. Now, what everyone wants most in a Tinder profile is to see exactly what you're looking for right in your bio. They want looking for, and then you better be explicit with serious committed relationship, casual fling, whatever it is. Everybody wants to know that before you even start messaging, which I don't know if I like. It feels practical, but I don't know if it's exciting.
Part of the fun of dating for me, although I'm a dinosaur, the last time I was really dating and not just, broken up with my girlfriend temporarily and hooking up, is like learning about the person.
Yeah.
Having said that, I hear from the kids and from the culture, this culture of, sending someone 5 messages and disappearing and getting 100 matches like that and filtering through the noise is almost impossible these days. Like, I hear times are way more rough than when the last time I installed Tinder on my phone was, and I'm embarrassed to say it was 12 or 13 years ago. Wow.
Oh my gosh. That's what I was just going to ask. So did you used apps before? Like,
yes.
You've been on dating apps.
Me and my lovely partner, Miranda, who somehow stands me, are a Tinder success story, but at a time when Tinder was like not yet monetized. There was no paid features. It was just left, right. It wasn't like super likes and bots and all kinds of whack stuff that's on there now. I said whack. That's like not a word that I say on a regular basis. As it came out of my mouth, I'm like, why did I say that? That's whack, Caitlin.
We're really showing our age here.
Yeah, I'm a million years old. I'm almost 40. Okay, not important. It was just so different back then from what I hear. I'm not secretly on Tinder planning an affair. And if I was, no one would match with me except for a bot. Because it's so different, I get it. But at the same time, those early text messages are kind of the fun part.
I know. And that's the part. So again, I will admit to a similar blind spot as you, where I've never used dating apps. I met my husband before these were really a thing.
In a cornfield? How do you meet people?
Well, because we were in the same group of friends, and I was in a relationship before. And so we knew each other when I wasn't single. And then when I became single, we started dating. So I wasn't even really single for that long. Like, I kind of I did the thing of going from one relationship kind of into the next. So I think I am kind of uninformed, but I do have a lot of friends who are dating, and they do tell me exactly what you just outlined, that it is hard. And you kind of start these weird little semi-relationships with people, and then it goes nowhere, and it becomes really, really exhausting. And that's what this loud dating is. They're saying it's a rejection of the play it cool and see where this goes mentality. They want everyone to be incredibly upfront right from the jump, because otherwise you're wasting people's time. But because again, I'm like sepia toned when I'm saying this now, I agree that was the most exciting part, was the playing it cool and seeing where it goes. I love playing it cool and seeing where it goes. That's fun. And if it doesn't pan out for you, you've at least, to me, had the fun little spark of whatever that was. And it doesn't really bother me if it doesn't go anywhere, but that's just me.
At the same time, that's so emotionally exhausting. Just those little sparks with strangers over and over until it metastasizes into a date. And then like 10 dates metastasizes into a relationship. It was funny the first time.
I guess I'm also imagining that you're meeting these people in real life to an extent as well. And it's not just this annoying, like, hey, what's up? Text constantly, which that actually would drive me crazy. But I'm imagining that you would get together for a few dates and have some fun and then see, I'm already the person who likes to say, see where it goes. I don't know how I must have said that a million times in my single life.
Wow. We'll see where it goes. Yeah. I don't know. I usually just hook up with people when I haven't been single for the last time Miranda and I broke up was probably 6 or 7 years ago. So, and I'm 38.
Mm-hmm.
So like early 30s, but yeah, it was like through friends. I used to do a lot of stand-up comedy. I hooked up with a few comics. That's a mistake. Just like hanging around, like out on a vacation with a group of friends. And there's that. I can't bear myself to do the apps. There's only so many times I can like have funny banter, witty banter. I guess with ChatGPT now, it could be your banter for you. But then like I'm a bot, and I'm complaining about talking to bots.
Oh my God. That's so dark. I bet people are using ChatGPT to message their dates now. Oh, I didn't even think of that. It is like the movie Her. It's kind of the plotline of the movie Her in a way.
Yeah. So, all I can think of to send you is "you up." But then I type to ChatGPT, hey, can you come up with a better "are you up" text so that my friend will come over and make sex at me?
This is darking me out now. Like, this is why I do think everyone just has to go back to some form of IRL meeting each other, because our social skills and our ability to have interesting chat and banter is going to actually cease to exist. If you don't flex that muscle, you lose it. It is a real case of like, if you don't use your conversational, charming, flirting abilities, they're gone if you just sit in your house for 2 years and have ChatGPT phone flirt with strangers.
Oh my God. I wonder in the future if there's going to be little cults that are just like living as we lived in the early 2000s. Like, and then the real futuristic people with their implants in their flying cars will look at them like they're the Amish or something, or the Mennonites. And I wouldn't mind living in that community.
Me too. I'm down for a flip phone community anytime.
This is such a weird, boring tangent, but I think it's the iPhone 13 because it's the last one they made that's small, that's like too small to use, you know?
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh, why do you want that phone? It's horrible to use. It's too small. And I'm like, that's why I want it. I hate my phone. I hate being on my phone. And the fact that my phone is terrible to use gives me great joy because I'm on it less. I don't know. Just all this technology. I like computers. Like I like sitting at a desktop typing away, but the phone and the Tinder, I just can't do it. When Miranda leaves me, I'm going to die alone for sure.
So this came up, I forget who this came up with recently. Oh, it came up on the podcast. I was talking about this with Jan. And on our most recent episode, we were just talking about what it would look like for me if I was single again. And I said, I don't think I'd ever meet someone else again in my life. And like, maybe that would be fine because Jan has been single for a really long time. And I just thought, I don't know if I don't think I could do the dating thing the way it is now. I would be the person who doesn't put what they're looking for in their bio and would instead say, let's play it cool and see, and nobody would want to date me.
I'm just too old. Like, okay, when I used to date, I had to eat white rice for a week because I have IBS, like I have
oh my God.
My personality. Well, you know me, my personality's, honestly, my personality is birth control at this point. Like it's 100% effective. Who's going to date me? Like I'm undateable.
You're like, you don't need the Nuva ring. Don't worry. Just talk to me for a little bit.
Yeah. And it prevents STDs and pregnancy. It's
Love
like,
that.
I can't bear myself to do it. I'll die alone. But I've always jumped from relationship to relationship. When I say this to my girlfriend, I'm like, when you walk out on me, first of all, she gets mad when I say that. But I say, when you walk out on me, I'm going to die alone. She's like, you'll be dating someone in 5 minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah. I always think that I'm going to stay single when my relationships end. And I say it out loud, like, I'm going to stay single this time and meet some people. And same thing happens.
5
Same
minutes
outcome.
later, yeah.
5 minutes later.
People have this weird brain disease where they think it's a good decision to date me, and I seem to find them.
Yeah, an affliction I suffer from also.
Loud dating, not for you. 2 thumbs down, would not do.
I like it. No, not again. Like the OnlyFans thing, I just feel like it's not hot.
I would not mind if my girlfriend was on OnlyFans as a model. If she was paying some dude to message him, yeah, we'd have problems.
Okay. Well, that's a kink discussion for another day.
It is. I realized I've stepped into that without thinking I did. Caitlin Green, find her on the Jan Arden podcast where she co-hosts. She's a media personality. She's also a reality TV historian. Caitlin Green, thank you for being here.
Okay, thanks.
After the break, it's jobs you might never do. Who in their right mind would be a homicide detective? We'll find that out with a homicide detective in a moment. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
When the day is done, we're just getting started. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Tonight on Jobs You Might Never Do, we're diving headfirst into the world of chalk outlines, late night interrogations, and people who say things on the radio like, we've got a shooting in progress. That's right, we're talking to a real-life homicide detective. But who in their right mind would actually choose this job? We are going to meet a brave soul who did. His name is Hank Idsinga, Global TV's crime specialist. He's a former police inspector. Hank, I'm excited to talk everything homicide detective with you today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, David. It's great to be here to chat with you.
I don't even know where to start. Was this a career that you always wanted to do, or do you just kind of fall into it?
Well, you have to, I think for different people, they get there different ways. But for me, I knew from a very young age that I wanted to get involved in a policing career. And I didn't know what that meant or where that would lead to. And very early on in my career in Toronto, I was at a homicide scene and saw the homicide investigators who came along and really took control of that scene, did a great job and got the bad guy. And I decided right there and then, okay, that's where I want my career to end up. That's what I want to do. So I really focused on pursuing the investigative pillar in the police service and worked on that angle. And then I was lucky after 15 years of police work to be recognized and invited to join the homicide squad, which is obviously the pinnacle of investigative work within the police service. And I didn't leave. I spent the last 18 years of my career working homicide.
Didn't your family want you to come home? You never left the office?
I never left the career of homicide. Never left homicide work. You know, I started there as a detective, eventually worked my way up to detective sergeant. And then the last 5 years of my career, I was the inspector in charge of the entire homicide squad in Toronto. And then I retired in 2024 from there.
Thank you for the overview. I feel like I got a good picture of the career. I want to ask you some rapid fire questions about the job because I'm so curious. Some of them should be stupid. Some of them should be serious. And some of them might even be a little absurd. What is the hardest part of your job that no one talks about? I think we see a lot of hardship in the job in fictional portrayals on television, which probably all annoy you because they're all way out there. But like when I watch the show Frasier, for example, Roz, the producer of Frasier, it's a radio program fictionalized on a TV show. She's the board op and she's the regular producer. I've never seen that in real radio. So there are misconceptions. What would be these hard things that no one ever talks about?
Well, I think especially if you compare it to the fictional representation on television, there's some very good shows out there that really reflect some of the dynamics and the politics of police work. But the one thing they really fail to grasp is the amount of paperwork and the amount of note taking. that you have to do during a homicide investigation. You probably spend 60% of your time just sitting down and with pen to paper and writing down what you've seen, what you're focusing on, and compiling those notes for disclosure in court. And court's quite another thing too. For every, week that you might spend on a homicide investigation, you're going to spend several months in court responding to the charges that you've laid for that homicide investigation. So the two big things really are the notes, court, and of course the long hours. The long hours can get absolutely ridiculous sometimes, but you can't just up and leave in the middle of an active murder investigation. You have to keep on going. So sometimes up to 48, 60 hours at a time.
Those who excel in English homework growing up, I think, are well positioned to be police. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of writing homework. Next question. Do homicide detectives really have white whales? And if so, what was yours? And for those who don't know what a white whale is, it's like, I don't know, a task that you obsessively pursue for a long time that's very difficult to achieve. So for a homicide detective, it would be that case that's almost uncrackable that maybe you finally crack in the end.
Yeah, every homicide case is like a white whale because that's your job. You have to obsess about it, and that's how you're successful with your homicide investigations. You can't let go. You have to pursue absolutely everything. You have to pursue even things that you speculate might be relevant down the road in court. You can't have that tunnel vision and just simply exclude things and avenues of investigation because you don't think they're going to lead anywhere. You have to pursue absolutely everything. You have to be relentless. And if you do that and a little bit of luck on your side because of the luck you've made, then you should be successful in bringing these investigations to proper resolutions and being able to get those answers and clearing that occurrence.
Weirdest piece of evidence that you've ever brought to trial? I'm thinking like bag of Cheetos, a Roomba that had a camera in it. In your whole career, what was some of the strangest evidence you've seen?
That's a tough one. Seen some really bizarre things. I think the first thing that comes to mind is text messages. Really, delving into some of these bizarre conversations and communications that people have with each other, and discovering the dynamics, and then having to present it and discuss it in court if it becomes relevant to the case.
Would you see murder plans scattered in the text history with the most mundane things, like, "Hey, honey, can you pick up the eggs on your way home?"
I've seen, and one case comes to mind with a murder plan in it, not quite between husband and wife, but between some gang members who are plotting to execute somebody later that day. And some of the post-offense text messages where they're discussing the murder that's happened can get very interesting, and delving into some of those and really looking into those private communications between people that they never think anybody else is going to be looking at. And the things that they say on those communications can be a bit of a strange world.
Do you get obsessed with cases? Like, are there cases that you couldn't solve that just like keep you up at night to this day? I feel like that's a common trope in detective TV. Or at the end of the day, when you tried your best but you couldn't quite crack it, you just move on.
You will obsess on every case until you absolutely exhaust everything that can possibly be done. That's when the obsessions really happen. And if you've done your job properly and still can't solve the case, because you can't manufacture evidence or make things up, I don't obsess over those. I still keep them in mind, but the obsession really happens when you're still working that case and you think you're never going to get there and you're grasping at everything. There's been many, many nights staring at the ceiling of my bedroom at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, I got to do this, or how am I going to get here? And what am I going to pursue next in this case? That's really when the obsessions happen.
Do all detectives wear those tan like trench coats, like you see? What's the outfit and how do you choose it? A lot of detectives don't wear cop uniforms. They wear plain clothes. It seems to always be a suit. How do you pick the outfit?
Yeah, it's tradition in homicide to be very well dressed, to have those expensive suits. Police officers can be notoriously cheap, and you'll see the young officers wearing very cheap suits to court when they have to wear a suit, and then the homicide guys kind of get made fun of because they're in their multi-$1,000 suits. And back in the 80s, there was a bit of a fashion trend with detectives to wear fedoras, and you still see those come back once in a while. But
Did you wear a fedora in your days?
oh gosh, no. I had one fellow who came onto my team, and he showed up on day one wearing a fedora, and we mocked him pretty relentlessly, and it didn't show up on day two. So
Well, Hank, thanks for answering questions about what it's like to be a homicide detective. I'm going to go pick up my fedora. So that's that. I appreciate your time.
thanks, Davis.
Hank Idsinga is a global TV crime specialist and a former police inspector. Man, I love a schwitz, a sauna. Reports come out here and there that say saunaing confers health benefits, but a new study has hit the scene that says saunas have some surprising benefits you might not have thought of. What are they? Find out on the other side of the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Your nightly dose of unfiltered opinions and unexpected conversations. The last show with David Cooper.
Want to be more healthy? You don't need to drink celery juice and eat quinoa every day. No, just have a schwitz. We love a schwitz, a sauna, and I also love an academic paper that says that saunaing is good for you. So I am here with a person who worked on a paper that says just that. She's a professor in nursing at the Luleå University of Technology in Sweden. Her name is Åsa Engström. Åsa, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Let's start with the steam. I know it's a very cultural thing where you live in Sweden, but what made you start thinking about what the actual health benefits are, and what made you start studying it?
I have done a lot of research about intensive care and such things, but later on I have been interested in what the nature can do for the health and so on, and I also interested in sauna bathing and so on, and started to read more about it, and found that there are studies that says that it's good for the cardiovascular system and so on, and there we started from the interest, and actually this study we got the possibility to add questions about sauna bathing in a health survey, a rather big health survey in the northern part of Sweden that rather many people answer, and this made it possible to compare different items with those who did sauna bath and those who didn't.
So let's look at those who did. The results from your survey, from your study, are amazing. People who sauna report more energy, less pain, better sleep, better moods, more happiness. These are a lot of positive benefits that we're just seeing rolling in. Did any of them stand out to you? Did any of them surprise you? And you thought, wow, this is a lot better than I even thought.
I think it was really interesting, and I was aware that there are positive effects from this. It could be something that I thought was a little bit. They didn't have less stress, for instance. That was something that I could think that maybe we could see that, and so on. But it was a lot of positive things that we could see. What I also want to say is that this was the group who did sauna bath regularly, and that group was a bit younger and a little bit more physical active, and we know that the group with sauna bath that had better values to the health, but we cannot for sure say that it's absolutely just a sauna bath. It can also be other things that add to this thing. But it's very positive what we can see.
For the sauna skeptics out there, what do you think's going on with our body or our brain that explains all these potential benefits? Is it the heat? Is it the ritual of it? Is it the bonding and routine of it, going with your neighbors? Is it all of these things?
I would say the last one you said, all of this. I think it's we know that it's good for the heart and so on. That you got a good circulation. We know that the heat is good also, and it's all from the cells to the muscles and also the vessels and so on. That it's good with this heat and so on. But also an important thing is the social part. Often you do it together with others. You can sit in the heat and relax, and you are not on the internet or you are not looking for likes. You just be there. It's like a cold, warm mindfulness or something like that. And you are here and now. And I think it's something very important for us people right now to find these places and so on to just be and sort of relax from all the things that's going around us.
For me, I find it meditative. Like it's very meditative for me. I focus on my breathing. So it's very calming for me. And also, like, I have close friends who I sauna with. I once went to a co-ed sauna with my girlfriend and my friend and his fiance. He asked me to be a groomsman. He asked me to be in his wedding party in the sauna. And so I have personal experiences about building community through the ritual of it. Is that something that's very common in Sweden, to have little communities where people sauna together?
Yes, I think that is. And many times that you go and have some physical activities and afterwards you sit there. Some have this routine. I know at my workplace there are couples who every Sunday go together and then they also discuss, family life and things like that. So I think it's rather common and I think it's rather important to have some kind of routine for it. And there are also those who prefer to be alone in the sauna, also to be for a while. But most people, I think, prefer to have other nice companies who talk, a bit but not too much, and so on. So yeah, that's important too.
We see videos of people in northern countries, whether it's Sweden or Russia or Canada, where they sauna and then they jump into the ice cold water. And I know some places like spas, they have a cold plunge. It's a cold bath that you can go into after you've done the hot sauna. Do you see health benefits from this sort of like hot, cold, ice, steam combination?
Yes, it's really interesting that you take this question up, because we have continued from this study. We have done a bigger survey that there were about 50 questions about sauna, but also about cold bathing. And I actually doing interviews about cold baths right now. And that's also a very interesting phenomenon. But most of those, even though they bath really, really cold water, they don't warm up so much. They don't go to a very, very heat sauna bath before or after. Most of the time they jog or they drink a cup of tea or something like that, and then jump into the water, and it's a special thing you have to breathe in a special way, and they say that's very, very good for their stress levels and so on, and they can really long for this. But it seems like the cold bath is a phenomenon by itself. But you can also sauna bath and sort of it's swim in water that's not so cool, it's not so warm, and so I guess that. But it seems like this is not always the same thing you do.
In your research, you noticed no socioeconomic differences between sauna and non-sauna users, which I love. Do you think sauna bathing is a very accessible thing? Because I'm not sure it is here in North America, but maybe it is in Sweden?
I think many people have the possibility to go to a sauna, and you know, it's not so much you have to do. It's and in many houses in the north of Sweden, it's in the basement there also often are an sauna and so on, and many build saunas, and now they're coming sauna tents and so on. So often at the bathhouse and swimming pools and close by that can be. So it's rather easy to get one, and it's rather easy to try it. And I think that's one of the positive things that you don't have to do so much to get it. And if you like it, there are health benefits you can get used to.
I wish there was more saunas available here in North America. I appreciate you talking to me about your study. Åsa, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Åsa Engström is a professor in nursing at the Luleå University of Technology in Sweden. That's the show. Thanks for listening to it. Don't forget that the last show is available as a podcast. You can stream us on the go and listen to any parts you missed. Just find out more info about that online at www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com, .pizza. And there you can find our social media accounts as well. Give us a follow. Thank you for tuning in. Listener, singular intended. I really do appreciate you, our one listener. That's you. Catch you tomorrow.